Thank you guys for joining us. I know we have kind of a small group here. I'm super excited. My name's Heather Zimmerman. I'm really excited to be taking you on Stryker's journey to digitizing the OR and driving innovation in the operating room, as well as kind of, talking about how they're advocating patient safety. And so today I'm joined by Chamara Gamhewage. Gotta make sure I pronounce that correctly. He is the group lead, R&D lead at Stryker. And so with that, we're gonna get started. In 2013, a study was done, and it was estimated that nearly a dozen times a day, surgeons were sewing up patients and mistakenly leaving sponges and foreign objects in the body. And nearly 2/3 of those foreign objects were sponges. And so you can see here, up there, and I don't know if I can do the pointer, but up there are those sponges in the body. And then over here, the body then encapsulates the sponges, causing major issues and permanent injury to patients, and even a 4.5% mortality rate. And so with that, Chamara, tell us how Stryker is assisting doctors and surgeons in the medical team in addressing patient safety.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. So again, I'm Chamara Gamhewage, Stryker Research and Development. And again, thank you, Heather, from Magenic. It's been continues to be one of our most trusted partners in this digital transformation of our company. So really, I think there's about 4 points here to how are we going to go after improving patient safety or preventing retain items. First thing is definitely partnering with a trusted and capable partner in digital consulting. That's, I think, number one. That's how we're going to solve any solution that has digital to it. Stryker's not a software company. We don't even call ourselves a technology company. We're a sales company in the medical field, pretty much making and selling electromechanical products or disposables. So this is a new front for us. Another thing there to mention is that we're going to start, the way we solve these things is I think that's the key theme here, is we're going to start from a user need first. We're not going to say, hey, there's a technology, let's call it blockchain. This is really cool, let's develop the technology and let's find a solution. We are going to say, what's a real user need out there? And then tie that with a strong business case, and that's how we're going to solve these problems.
Okay, and so we talked about getting to a kind of addressing the patient and the foreign retained objects. And in here, one of the missions is to get to 0 retained sponges. So how did Stryker go about approaching the issue of retained sponges and solving that need?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we were going to do something, I think that's Stryker's, that's our culture, that's our innovation culture, is that we're not going to marginally improve something. We're not going to provide digital solutions that just marginally improve something. In terms of what was going on here, as you can see, sponges do get retained, and 88% of them are because of a manual count. So if anybody doesn't know what a manual count is, surgery is pretty hectic. Things do get left behind, everybody knows that. And procedures and policies have been implemented by hospitals, and those procedures and policies do require the staff to count stuff in, count stuff out. That's maybe an exaggeration, but the hospital or the OR room is chaotic. Think about, we have 20 marbles. We're keeping track of them. I use marbles because they can roll and sponges can go around. If it was up to me to manually count those things, over 10,000 surgeries, I'll lose a few marbles, and that's what's going on. So what happens is nobody closes a patient thinking they have a forced manual count. That's what we call manual count. You count them in, you count them out with a whiteboard or something. But there's a false sense of confidence in a manual count. And that's what's causing this, really. That what people thought was I closed the patient correctly. I had 50 sponges go in, 50 sponges come out, when actually only 49 came out. So that's really the cause of this.
So underlying problem is overconfidence in false error in their counting, which is creating that false error.
Correct.
and leading to the problem of the sponges.
That's correct.
So what did Stryker do to solve that?
Yeah, so before these counting principles came in, it was pretty pretty bad, the numbers. After the counting, manual counting definitely does help, but it doesn't solve the problem. So what Stryker's solution is this, is the surge count solution. So you can see on the left here, it's what you call the manual process. You kind of collect all your sponges after they've been counted into the surgery, and you kind of have to take them one by one and count them out. You're going to make sure you don't count something 2 times, because that's the worst thing that could happen. Now you've duplicated stuff. Solution was, as we said, is there a user need and does a digital solution make sense? Absolutely. Take the sponges, barcode them with a unique data matrix barcode, and then we implement tablets, a tablet-based platform in all the operating rooms. Nurses scan them in, the barcodes, and if there's any duplicates or unknown, it takes care of that. And when you're done with the surgery, you scan them out. That seems simple enough, but it really has forced a level of compliance, and really, it's going to show up on a screen, count incorrect, and if you really have to close that, you have to put your name in and everything. So it's driving compliance. And it's really a tool that having uniquely barcoded sponges with a digital solution. Also, the surgical cloud solution is not just what's in the hospital. It's a Stryker Health Cloud, which can kind of real-time give data and metrics to the hospital administrative staff. So they're looking at, hey, nurse A, for some reason or the other, has, not that she's left sponges in, that would be a different problem, but seems to have a lot of manual counts or repeat counts and stuff like that. So this could really improve your staff too.
So with that, after bringing the product to market, has this assisted in eliminating the false error counts?
Absolutely. Eliminated is the word. Not reduce it, eliminated it if you use this technology. I think the statistics from like a year ago was 200 million plus sponges, 11 million plus procedures, not a 0 retained sponge using this technology. So I think that's the key there. Digital solutions are great, but we don't want to give something that marginally improves it because it's a big investment. We want something that kills the problem altogether.
And have you cited evidence on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So here's one. I think the key thing to highlight here is an unsponsored study. Anybody can sponsor their own study and kind of the data. This is unsponsored. This was from the Mayo Clinic. I think there's a progression here. There was 14 days between RSS means retained surgical sponges. Every 14 days they would have one. Then they implemented manual counts, which was effective, obviously. It went from 14 to 64 days, so higher the number, that means time between failures. That's good, a high number. So without that saying 0, it should be say infinity, because what's happening now is after putting Stryker's surgical count solution in, 0 sponges over the study, and to date, not a single retained sponge used in this system.
So tell me about, why did Stryker go on a journey? So you had mentioned when we opened that you're not a software company. Right. So why did you go on that journey of looking at software solutions to solve problems in the OR and pursue digitizing it?
Right, so I think there's a couple of things here. Yeah. So again, digitizing or software is not an option anymore. I think everyone in this room has heard of Industry 4.0. It was relatively new to us. We're like a electromechanical kind of product company. What's happening is nurses, surgeons, customers have digital in their everyday world. And it seems like there's lots of solutions, leveraging digital solutions that can solve real world problems. Again, the key here was we were not just going to go digital for the sake of digital. Real world business problems, real world business cases that's profitable for Stryker and helps customers eliminate a problem. Because of that, we were able to it was very easy to say digital is the way to go. We didn't have those capabilities. We're not ashamed of that. We partnered with Magenic, and we think we know we've launched at least the first stages of a very successful digital transformation of the OR. Another thing too here is that healthcare, is this the digital maturity curve? I think Magenic told us you guys are way behind. True. Tourism, media, everything you do that with software today, telecom, but healthcare's back there. But it's changing. It's changing. I think it's not an option not to do this. I think it's the bare minimum is to do this. It's no longer if you do it, you're great. I think if you don't go and offer these solutions, you're not going to be keeping up with the industry. It's like go back to the second industrial revolution of electricity. I'm sure a few companies held out thinking that was a fad, but pretty soon everything that was based on it, same thing here. I'm preaching to the choir here. UCLA, so we'll quote Coach Wooden. If If you don't have to do it right, then when will you have time to do it over? Because we're lagging doesn't mean we can go really slow, at least because the industry is lagging, but it gives us time to partner with people and do it really right. Because we've seen examples of this done wrong, and fixing that is a nightmare.
So with that, we talked about at the beginning around kind of changing that mindset. And at Magenic, kind of we believe in order to solve those real world problems and to create an impact and drive innovation, you have to change your mindset to be kind of a software driven mindset. One, and Chamara said it probably half a dozen times, I'm going to reinforce it, is to really focus on that customer, focus on what their needs are, what are the problems that you're trying to solve for, and uncover those. Then the other piece is how do you get to market quickly? So how do you get that product in market, continue to learn from your customers and innovate and enhance on it over time and iterate. The third would be making sure that you get to the cloud as you're partnering with hospitals across the nation. You have to be able to sit in their environment as well as be able to collect data on that, so getting to the cloud. And then modern practices. And I want to spend a little bit of time, Chamara, on the modern practices and your culture. Have you guys adopted any of these practices?
Absolutely, all of these, and I think there could be a few other points that we want to iterate as well.
Yep, so what's been the most critical areas that you have focused on to drive innovation?
Like we said before, always customer first, no question, and that's why I think it's 3 stages to innovation. Innovative is a creative process, why put a process around it? I think it lets you focus on your blue chips and then eliminate opportunities that are not. So I think one is desirable. Discover the user need, the user experience. Always start with that. Stryker's lucky. Stryker's been a leader in medical technology for a very long time. So we have a great sales channel, direct responsibility. So we have the luxury of starting with the user need. And then, like you said, now we can say, hey, now we have a user need. What solution is appropriate? It may not be digital. It may be a piece of plastic that we launched to solve that problem. It doesn't have to be, but in today's day and world, especially with the pillars you talked about of speed to market, it's really been, this is the fastest we've iterated on new product development is since we've started going on a software route. Software doesn't sit by itself. It needs a platform and all that kind of stuff. There are components that are physical, but so feasible. And then the third thing is, so the first thing is, do users want it? Is there a problem? Second is, can we do it? Is it technologically feasible? And third is it viable? Can we make money on it? Because that's really the key here is, it has to check all 3 boxes. I've seen many examples of many companies that do stuff just for the sake of going digital. Look at your iPhone, how many apps are there that you use once a year? And then think like Google Maps that you use every day. If you're solving a real user need, this stuff is so powerful. And we have to be really disciplined in innovation to focus on what has the most amount of impact and actually solve problems.
Chamara, and as you think about desirable, and I want to kind of dig into this a little bit, I'm going to catch you a little off
Sure.
guard,
No problem.
but that physical and digital sense. So as we think about bringing the sponge counter into the operating room, you're in both kind of, you're using software as well as you're solving things in the physical sense too. How have you guys kind of, as you've looked at both physical needs that require a physical solution and needs that require a digital solution, how have you guys kind of addressed both of those, and what does that research look like?
Yeah, the research really looks like, and we've partnered with you on some of these projects, right? So we've co-done some of that. Often, you can't, like, you're gonna start with more of an empathic kind of a sense. You're not gonna really ask the user, what do you want? I think the best thing is to, you kind of sit in or stand in an OR corner and kind of see what are users doing every day and what seems inefficient. A good example that was given to us when we kind of took this methodology of developing products or getting ideation is that Intel, the study that was cited was Intel, made computer chips. They would go to customers' houses and kind of teams of designers would kind of look at people using computers, be great every day. They love it. They say, I love your product. And you ask the computer customer what they would. They say, maybe faster, maybe a bit more memory, but this is great. We love what we have. But the researcher was just seeing every family member in one house would go to one room to go use that one desktop. And that apparently was the birth of a laptop computer, mobile computing, right? The customers couldn't say it, but you can observe it. And I think we have to do that. And a lot of times when you observe those kind of things, there's a marriage between software, hardware, electrical, mechanical, electrical, that gets you the solution. We didn't want to just say, hey, here's a calculator to count things out, because that wouldn't have eliminated the problem. So these do pair with other offerings.
Going in
They
and
often do.
observing.
Yeah.
So as you think about culture, so you're looking at, is an idea solving a need, so desirable, is it feasible solution that you can move forward in your development, and then is it viable? Is it going to add value to both the hospitals and surgeons and the medical team, but also to Stryker? So take us now on the journey of what else is critical? What practices, we talked about speed, what practices do you use to get to market quickly?
So you might be very surprised when we say this, but we didn't do Agile. We had a waterfall development methodology. I'm assuming everybody's familiar with that. If not, I can pretty much tell you, you have a product development cycle of about 1 to 2 years. You kind of get your design inputs, you develop, and you come together at the end. If you hit it, great. If you don't, you may have launched something that the market's already outgrown out of. With this methodology, requirements, design, develop, test, mini loops, you keep every 2 weeks iterating a potential shippable software piece. And that's the key there. And then in this philosophy is something called the minimum viable product. A lot of projects fail because code keeps getting added, and really it'll be this. But you tell yourself, hey, what's the minimum viable product to be successful? And you keep discipline to that, and you keep every 2 weeks developing a little bit. You really know where you are. And this Agile methodology has been great. With this comes other benefits that everybody talks about in innovation. I know I'm stating the obvious, like fail fast, fail early. Customers are pretty much involved, not users, but stakeholders, every 2 weeks when you launch a little bit of the product. When you say launch, it's not getting deployed. You kind of have this and you demonstrate it. You kind of say you missed the target, oh no, our targets have changed. And it really, the risk of missing user needs goes away with this approach. And it's been, I wouldn't say not just nice to have, it was mandatory for us in our digital transformation. But before we could transform our products, we had to transform our processes doing this. So I think it was going to be quite a waste of opportunity if we went to this slide and not talk about Agile Scrum, which was new to us, but probably these companies talk about that every day.
And so you talk about not missing that unmet need and innovating and driving that innovation. Where does the customer come in this life cycle? So you said you're demonstrating, but how do you get back to hospitals and how are you infusing them in?
Right. I mean, we wouldn't talk to them every 2 weeks because nobody would have time for that, but at least on a quarterly basis, we're like, here's our kind of what we've developed. What do you think? You come back and the product owner who's responsible for the whole thing will kind of say, yes, good. Kind of, but then also there's marketing and sales as part of this project team that represent those needs for the most part.
After the demos.
Yes, exactly, the sprint demos, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What questions do you have for Chamara around their innovation journey at Stryker?
No, absolutely. Like you said, it depends who in the hospital. If it's a risk manager who's in charge or ultimately responsible for patient safety, absolutely want this today. But if it's a nurse, I'm manually counting every day. It's a never event, so it's not like it happens every day either. So why are you coming to me with a solution that of the problem that I don't think we really have? Our manual count's good, you're adding. So part of the way to get out of the resistance, that study that we did showed that they really didn't add any time. And then, this stuff, it destroys reputations of hospitals, it destroys careers by doing this, and it's not fair on you have to showcase to the user or who is a nurse or a surgeon at this point in time, this is here to actually protect you as well as the patient, and the acceptance is there. And it's like anything else. When first cordless vacuum came in, the Dysons and stuff, oh no, I'm fine with what I'm doing. And then as it catches on, you really see there's benefits of this. So yeah, I will lie to you if there wasn't resistance like any disruptive technology would have. There was, but because there's results, because it eliminated a problem. If it was just something that improved their outcomes, let's say by 5%, I don't think the adoption wouldn't be like this. But because it eliminates and say, if you use this, you will have no issue. And if you're a patient and you go to a hospital that uses this technology, you'd ask for this, right? So,
I think one of the other things too in the study that we did was also to understand where do they get value back. So if I'm using this solution or some of the other solutions that you guys are working on right now, where am I going to get that time back? And so when we did the research, we posed, the question around if you think about patient safety and you didn't have to spend more time in this space and you were able to, what does that give you back? What value does that bring to you?
right.
And doing that then opened the dialogue up. It doesn't solve the change management issue, but it opened it up to say, okay, well, what other things could I be doing if I was not concerned about trying to prevent this event that occurs?
Right. Could you go back, Heather, to the
Yep.
slide that kind of showed the Surgicon solution? I
Yes.
just wanted to say one more thing here. Yeah, that one, right? So you see this tablet that's on an IV pole? That's valuable real estate in an OR, right? Another way that this is right now it's doing just sponge counting, sponge tracking. Counting is the wrong word. It's preventing sponges from being retained. But now we have a piece of hardware, we have a cloud infrastructure. There's so many other things that this is going to do that's going to help the nurses. I mean, I'm not going to disclose those now. Those are things in development. But that too now makes this, okay, I have to do that, but there's also 20 other things that's going to make my life easier. There's so much paperwork that goes on in a hospital today. And everybody, if you go change a doctor, you get 20 forms to fill in before you sit down, before your first appointment. And on each of those pages, it's the same information, name, date of birth, this. How many times you list your allergies and your medication, right? Like, nurses have to go through that every day, and it's hurting healthcare because nurses, there's not a issue of lack of nurses. There's an issue of lack of using nurses and surgeons efficiently. So that's another thing about this digital transformation. It's not like one solution. It's going to grow. It's going to evolve every day. Okay?
So, Chamara, I'm looking at the innovation process that you guys have, desirability, feasibility, viability.
Yeah.
Is that something that is specific for digital products? You guys use that for physical products? And then what kind of advice would you give to people who are just doing software, and how can they kind of take that home?
Great question. Great question. When I came to run the team in Irvine, which is our diligence solutions, I'm from Michigan, that's where our headquarters are. I came in thinking that everything's different. This is software. Oh my goodness, everybody said software is different when I quit. Surprisingly, the principles are the same. For mechanical, for electrical, for disposables, for sponges, it's the same mindset. Yes, software you might be using different tools, but that innovation in software is no different than innovating anything else. It's no different than innovating that electric toothbrush that you know? It's the same thing.
Yeah, so if I was tasked with building a piece of software for the company that I was working at, and let's say you were working in media and entertainment, for example, you're saying that you would take that process and you would apply it then to whatever you were doing regardless, because it makes sense. You start with that user need, you find out if the solution makes sense, if it's technically possible, and then you find out if you can actually sell it and make money off of it.
Absolutely. Yes?
You mentioned before that there were others who tried to solve this problem. What were the types of solutions?
Yeah, and these are competing technologies, so we're very careful at Stryker not to put the competition under the bus. When you're market leading, Samsung always has ads that takes a dig at Apple. Apple never plays with the competition the same way. But I will tell you, the competing technology, without naming the companies for that reason, because you want to be respectful, is RF technology. And again, it may be the technology is fine, but maybe the way it's executed. But now, without having barcodes, you have RFID chips. And the solution is, I don't need to count anything. When I'm done closing the patient, I'm going to scan and see if there's, before I close, I'm going to warn that patient to see if anything is left inside. That hasn't resulted in eliminating the problem. Again, there's a reduction. There is a reduction. That's one thing. There are other tools. For example, there are competing technologies where you would take a sponge and you would take a picture of it, and the software can analyze it and say, this sponge is unique versus this one. But again, all of these have shown with mod reports, which is FDA reportable events, that this is the only solution. Now, again, this being a robust solution required a process change in the nurses, right? To say, hey, I'm going to count this in, count this out. So it seems less convenient, but in reality, it didn't add any more time, and there's no retained sponges. Stryker guarantees, I think, $5 million in indemnity to a company right now. It's called the surgical promise. If you use our system, and because of this backend that Magenic developed for us, backend, I say cloud software, we use all the statistics. So if a customer kind of comes and says, hey, no, I used your system properly and the sponge got left in, you're like, no, every step is documented in that compliance process. No, you know what? You didn't count that out. You manually put a note in and manually counted out the whole thing, saying that, those kind of things.
When you engaged Magenic, did you already have a problem that you were trying to fix?
Yes, we already had a problem. That's one thing. Now there's products we're doing in the future. And again, this is not Magenic trying to prop up Stryker or Stryker. This is a true partnership. And for a company like us, which is not a digital company, this was mandatory for us to go in this field. We had to find the right partner. And frankly, the product line suffered because we didn't find the right partners. And we asked engineers to go do software stuff on your own. And it's really important. But recent things that are in the pipeline, it was actually we've engaged Magenic in the research process to identify the opportunity. That's what Heather's team does, is that, if
Yeah.
I say it correctly.
Well, and I would say, one of the things here with the solution is it's not over-engineering it and bringing technology forward. It's simple. I mean, the nurses in the OR have to, there is that procedural process of counting. So how do we how do we make that easier? And it doesn't have to be robust and different. But, how do we make it easier? And then if we have to create a change, how do we go in and advocate that change?
And again, one thing to mention here is, this is definitely not as complex as the Mars rover you saw upstairs, right? No question, neither should it be. That was amazing stuff, no question. But again, the key here is to keep it simple, to solve the problem with the minimum amount of technology that you need that's effective, right? That is key, and to provide minimum disruption to the user with your it should disrupt the outcomes, but not the processes as much as you can. You want to, because if I introduce something that added 50 more steps to a nurse who's already overwhelmed, there's probably going to be more mistakes in other areas, right?
I'm seeing trends though, right?
Yeah.
For example, scopes that are not clean can lead to infection, right? And
Yeah.
hospitals are measured by infectious
Yeah.
diseases, and so scopes in and out being clean or being tracked. So are you seeing other products being that same rigor of tracking to be compliant?
Absolutely.
And I'm seeing once you've already broken that barrier, more
Yeah.
nurses are going to be attuned to that, right? They're
Yes.
going to appreciate and welcome that. But it's just like the EMR.
Yeah.
Right, when doctors start using more electronic records instead of paper,
Right.
and there is a change, right? Even there, those your target market is starting to embrace it and welcome it and
Right.
realize it's a necessary, not evil, but necessary to help all their
Exactly.
use cases. I can't wait till you address all the form filling out, because that's a
No,
big
yeah.
point everywhere. When's that going to happen?
No, it is. And again, that's what I'm trying to say. The solutions we may say are not like, you'll probably look at it and say, why didn't I think of that? But that's good. That's the best innovation for me, I don't think you can go to Mars doing that little things, but in this hospital, it is a manual process. Every form you can eliminate, everything that can go, and that's what digital transformation is. It's not this big, scary word. It's taking a somewhat ineffective or inefficient manual process and using software to make it better. That's it. Using a calculator is a digital transformation. It is.
Yeah, and I think that the transformation, as I think about the journey that you guys are on, is really the power of having that tablet in a spot where real estate's really, really expensive, and they can't just bring new devices in because then you have to take something else out and they have to kind of leverage. Is the benefit of bringing this device in going to offset the detriment of pulling this device out to make room for it, right? And
Right.
so what you guys are doing there, the real transformation now comes where you can take this digital technology and start replacing and freeing up real estate so that more devices can be brought in and kind of connected.
Correct. And there's a key point here is if you have those capabilities in-house, you're a software company, great. If not, you want to partner with somebody. Try to go with somebody who's actually transformed another industry, be it banking or travel or retail. There's so many lessons here. You're going to make mistakes the first time around. That this is more like trying to see if there's any companies out there that are lower in that digital maturity curve and want to become digital or have to become digital. Is also making sure that there's other industries who've done this. Don't make the same mistakes, make new ones, you know?
Something else, sorry, but the process that you guys work through, the 3 steps is very, very simple.
Yeah.
And in my experience working with CIOs, I find that companies tend to overcomplicate innovation, and they tend to make it more difficult, more challenging. What would you say to them about if someone were to come and say, well, this seems too simple, like what would you kind of counter that with? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The more steps you had, like more, I mean, there's a minimum amount of look at these 3 buckets, but within them, there's very little procedure. Like it has to be done this way, that way, or the other way. This phase of design, now, this is what we're doing is we're saying this is an opportunity. We're going an idea, and we're saying this opportunity is worth going after. After that, follow all the complexity you need to develop a product. There's all that established regulatory rigor and design controls and stuff like that. But in this phase, kind of check those 3 gates, making sure you're going after the right opportunity, but let your teams, your engineers, sales, marketing, just be aligned to a specific business group so they all have the same interests, and then just don't hinder those people. That's it. Keep it simple and give a lot of independence to those teams who are doing it. Just put in like these 3 phase gates like we talked about, just so that we have swim lanes for it. But no, if you over proceduralize innovation, it kills it. Everybody knows that. That's why a lot of companies do innovation in remote locations, drink a beer all day long, right? There's a reason for that. But yeah, sometimes you get these process people coming in and say, you know, innovation, I want 10 times more innovation, I'm going to put 25 steps in there. Yeah, that doesn't work, and I'm no expert in this, but I can tell you what has worked for me or not, and that clearly hasn't.
Yeah.
This is a question for Magenic.
Yes.
Do you see different customers of yours doing the same types of things? Or can you take this model and duplicate it across?
Absolutely. I think in any industry, any type of innovation, the model of desirability, viability, and feasibility is core to design thinking, and I think can be applied, if you apply that practice with an agile mindset, and leveraging any form of agile methodology together really helps you focus in on, are you addressing the need and what is the unmet need of your customers, and are you getting to a place where you can get to market quickly and test that out. So I really think in any problem, any hypothesis you have, if you start with those 3 gates and answer those 3 questions, you can get that innovation in place quickly, and then start measuring its progress for your organization.
And one last question.
Yeah.
What are the, from those different organizations that you've worked with, what are the things that hinder you from actually solving the problems that they've actually faced?
It starts with culture. And, you know, think about change management. I think everything starts with culture and that mindset. You know, so if you have people that are moving in the same direction and kind of have a same belief, I think that's the first step. The second step, I really think, is access to customers. I think that tends to be a barrier. Organizations are getting better at it. I think in the past, it's been under the, we need to do a research study. We need to go out and we need to do a quantitative study and spend months and months trying to understand our marketplace or our customers. You can do that a lot quicker now, but you need to have access either to your customers or a group of people that look like your customers. I always tell the clients that I work with, I don't have to, if you don't have an advisory board or sales is uncomfortable with, you know, bringing in a partner to come in and talk to your customers, or you don't have dollars for a big research study, then let's create a profile of what your customer looks like, or the customer that you're trying to target. And there's tools out there. We have a partnership with a firm where we can go in, we can create that model, and we can launch a study. And it can be as simple as just a question. You know, what's your hypothesis? What's your problem that you believe is in the marketplace or that your customers are having? Let's start there. And so I think you can get that feedback loop a lot quicker these days, and it doesn't have to be exact. I always talk about it being directional insights. Let's just figure out if we're, you know, if you think about the North Star, are we headed in the right direction? We know it's going to change over and over, but are we pointed in the right space?
I want to add to that, say, it's the word that I've heard is you can take companies into two categories. Do you have a growth mindset or do you have a maintenance mindset, right? Companies with a maintenance mindset will say, you and me on a project. New products are a disruption to maintaining what you have. There's more products to support, manufacturing variation, all that kind of stuff. But if everybody's incentivized such that your number one objective or bonus metric or whatever you call it is new product, and it shouldn't just be number of ideas, it's actually what you commercialized. I think that everybody's aligned to that. I think when you don't have that, you go into groups of big teams of people, and you have different alignment into different objectives of everybody has to be new product development, something that solves a user need is going to come out every day, every year, or every 2 years or something.
Thank you, guys. I think we are at time.
Yeah. Thank you very much.